Welcome everyone, every new joiner. I see still people coming in. So lovely to have you today. Maybe if you want to, you can write in your chat where you're coming from, because I would be very interested in knowing where you are from.
Yep, yeah, there's a questions window and a chat window that they can use for that.
Exactly, yes.
For some reason, my webcam is not working. I'm sharing it.
So I guess, Krista, if there's like any question in the chat, then you would jump in, right, and tell me, because I'm sharing my screen right now.
Yes.
So maybe, to be respectful of the time of our attendees, we should start.
Yes.
So
I will just hide my webcam since it's not working, and I'll pipe in with any questions that come in.
Well,
yes.
Jeff is here. So guys, like when questions come in, who's gonna? Krista, did you say you're gonna take the questions?
I will. I'll ask them, or Jeff, if you wanted. Either one's fine by me.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get that straight so we can. If you want to do it, it's fine. I'll be here and just participate where I can or not. It's fine. Let's get started 2 minutes after.
Yeah, let's get started. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. As you can already see in the first slide, our topic today will be governance process optimization. And obviously we are all interested in what happened in Vegas last week with the Microsoft 365 conference. Before we jump right into it, I want to say that this meeting is going to be recorded. So you will find the recording in your inbox after the webinar, and also those who registered but couldn't find the time to attend at this hour. And I wanted to invite you all to share your ideas in our chat. It's been moderated by Jeff, as you just heard. And please share also your needs. We're really interested in your opinion and what you have to share. Now, without much further ado, let me introduce who's here today. I will start with myself. My name is Pia Höhnscheid. I am the Partner Success Manager for Rencore, and I could talk a lot about Rencore, but I know that there's someone here who can do that already better, and this is our founder and CEO, Matthias Einig. Maybe, Matt, you want to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit about Rencore.
Is Matt there? Let's see. Oh, he's on mute, but it's not on mute.
Hello, everyone. Now you can hear me. Too many mute buttons. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for your time. As Pia already said, Matthias Einig, founder and CEO of Rencore. Rencore, we are a software provider for governance, Microsoft 365 governance. We have been around for 10 years, based in Germany, selling all over the world, also, of course, in the US, and recently partnered also with Crow Canyon Software. So that's it about me. I don't need to go much more into detail.
Lovely, Matt. Thank you very much. I will give the panel to my female counterpart. Krista, maybe you want to introduce yourself a little bit as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pia. So I'm the Director of Marketing at Crow Canyon, and I have Scott Restivo, our founder and CEO, with us today. And I'll be handing the floor over to him in just a moment as well. I know we're really excited. There's a lot to talk about today. And I know Matt and Scott, you have a lot of wonderful things to share with us. So I won't take up any more time. Scott, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you and take it from there.
Yeah, we're really excited to be doing this webinar and get going on it. We are from Crow Canyon, Krista, me, Jeff also, and our goal, our focus is on Nitro Studio and business process automation on SharePoint on-premises, also Microsoft 365 and Teams. So we really want to stay aware and alert as to where Microsoft's going with 365 and Teams, and hopefully we can share some of that information with you today and help you in your organization. So let's jump into it, Pia. Let's go.
Thank you for that introduction. Yes, I wanted to share the agenda really quickly so we can already tick off the introduction. We find that the most pressing topics that Microsoft has in the moment are the 5 that we mention here. We will discuss why that is, and we will take a deep dive into a few of them. First things first, so Scott, we are really interested about what happened last week in Vegas. Maybe you can tell us a bit about your key takeaways. How was the conference? How was the atmosphere?
Yeah, let's stick with the conference, not what happened after the conference, because it was Vegas after all. What we're finding out here at Crow Canyon, I think anybody who's gone to that conference or Ignite before has been reading up, is that Microsoft's moving in this direction of modernizing the workplace in the sense that they're looking at this generational spread of workers where you have baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z spanning the workplace, with the Gen Z and the millennials, of course, moving forward and pushing the baby boomers out with just age, as age comes on. And in that spectrum of people, there are different technological experiences. So they call the baby boomers and the Gen X more of the digital immigrants. They're not, and the millennials and Gen Z are the digital natives. So the idea is that building teams and building the M365 more for the digital natives, people, in other words, people who grew up with the cell phones, people who grew up with the internet. And yeah, here you go, right here, good slide on that. You can see that the baby boomers, people who are probably in their late 50s, early 60s, and Gen X is more like the 45 and older, and Gen Y it says there, but it's really millennials really coming into the workplace, and Gen Z, really coming into their own in the workplace, and Gen Z is really getting going. So the important thing that Microsoft seems to be pushing in these conferences and Ignite is that the organizations who want to stay current and competitive and attract the young workers and provide a place for millennials and Gen Z to do their best work, they need to adapt their environment and realize that the older style, where like baby boomers like me, I guess, is one, are more used to technology the internet was not, I didn't grow up with the internet, neither did a lot of the Gen X people, but for the Gen Z and the millennials, that really makes that's the heart of what they're doing. So that it's mobile, cloud, this hybrid workplace, the idea that any device, anywhere, kind of access to information, that not so much worried about the mechanics of the technology, how everything's wired together, but just turn on your phone and get access to information and be able to work. And Pia, I think you were bringing something up about
exactly what we discussed in preparation of this conference,
right,
of
about
this
quality of
webinar,
life.
Was that, yeah, and you said kind of that your key takeaway was also that the digital workplace is now here to stay, so we might as well adapt to it. And
exactly.
That obviously when our parents started working, they were in a job and they were staying at that job because they needed that job. They were reliant, they were dependent on it. Now we are much more independent also of our jobs. If something there is we don't like, we can switch at an instant and we find a new job. So it's not much more about, the standard of living just has become so much more that people care for their working environment. And we were asking ourselves, like, how is Microsoft responding to that, right? So this was like our thinking about, like, how does Microsoft make the workplace so at ease that we can work really easy with it.
Right, as you had mentioned, it's about quality of the work, not so much just to have a job, no matter how you need it.
Exactly.
So that's what I think is the overarching theme that I found in this conference and in my experience with Ignite. And like you said, Pia, the hybrid workplace is here to stay. And so let's dig into some of the particulars. Yeah.
I think in general, also the workplace becomes more and more replaceable for the employees, because if you work for one company in sales from the home office, or for the other company in sales for the home office, your work is mostly the same. It's not so much about being in the office and having that office atmosphere now, and people, employers become much easier replaceable, in my opinion, when you think about it. And the last 3 years with the pandemic, where everybody moved to home office or at least hybrid work, really pushed that thinking forward.
Yeah, and how is Microsoft responding to that? And we think those are the 5 things Microsoft is currently thinking of about the hybrid workplace in general, especially Teams, to engage people, AI, Viva, and syntax. And I will move on to our next slide that Scott brought with. So Scott, why did you choose to bring this slide, and what does it show essentially?
Well, this came out of a post-Ignite conference where Microsoft put up this slide, and we're saying that employees have a different perspective than the leaders, the people who are workers. So it seemed to indicate that there's a discrepancy between what employees think they're doing as far as productivity and what leaders think. And I think what Microsoft's looking to do is build it so that there's a more seamless interaction between employees and workers, and that, employees and leaders, and that the leaders become more confident in ways of ensuring that the employees are being productive. And this comes out, as you said, in a more enhanced hybrid workplace, in a more enhanced Teams interaction and Teams meetings. They're going to have Teams Premium coming out, some of the AI work that we're going to talk about, and Viva, and syntax. So what they're driving towards is the realization that this is how the new work environment is. There's going to be some office, people going in the office, of course, but there's also just clearly the hybrid workplace is here to stay. So how do we adapt to it? How does Microsoft make Teams and Office 365?
So there is an obvious lack of connection and engagement for at least the leaders that we somehow have to cover. And we are curious about how is Microsoft trying to engage us more. And here I have a question for Matt. How does Microsoft respond to that need? Obviously, Teams is a great question here, or a great issue here.
Yeah, I guess Microsoft is trying to make working more fun. I don't know. I'm probably already too old for that. So Pia, that's probably more for your generation. But Microsoft is trying to add some individuality to meetings, that you can express yourself, how you are, how you feel. And these mesh avatars are one thing. Like you have on your iPhone, you have your emojis now, and now you have in the workplace also your virtual avatar. If you have a bad hair day, then you use your avatar instead of turning on the video, and maybe don't want to expose your home office that much. And then they add things like, for example, that you can play games with each other. And now Minesweeper and Solitaire are back, so also integrated in Teams. I think I have to admit, from my perspective, this is something where I would say, okay, not necessarily something I expect in my workplace, but apparently this whole gamification, make it more fun and engaging, is a thing that relates well with younger generations in the workplace, to make maybe the difference from one more old school employer to a more cool hip employer, and tools like that can help with that experience. So at least that's my justification why Microsoft is going that way.
I guess Microsoft is like trying to make the digital workplace more engaging, right, via tools like gamification or creating avatars. But in terms of Teams and the development of Teams, maybe you can tell us a little bit more, Matt, about Teams Premium. What is it?
Yeah.
What can we expect?
So Microsoft added now a premium tier to Teams. So after that massive rollout of Teams in the pandemic era, where everybody went into the cloud and needed Teams to stay running, actually, now they of course are seeking for ways to upsell and create features that are relevant for organizations that want to embrace this hybrid working. So there are things like branding of your Teams environment, when you join a meeting, that you have a nice fancy background and adjust it to your corporate design, corporate colors, and that they add in Teams Premium a feature called intelligent recap. So basically an AI, so we will come to AI in a moment, but an AI in the back basically transcribes your team's meetings and recaps the context in content in a short summary, so that people who have not attended the meeting are able to quickly get a summary and know what has been said and what has been done. I haven't tried it myself yet, so I cannot say how well it works, but anyway. Then also marking meetings confidential, that recordings cannot be shared, that there's a watermark in the recording so that you know what's going on. So more targeted also, of course, at organizations that really want to make sure that confidential information stays in a place and have the worry that it doesn't. That's something called virtual appointments, where customers can book appointments with individuals and then have like a landing page and can use the browser, don't have to have Teams client installed. And lots of other things like webinars. They add stuff which is definitely not for the broad masses, but rather for organizations that do a lot of these webinars. And a lot of more features will come to customize the experience for the users. The mesh avatars are one part of that. I think there's yet a lot to come from Microsoft, how they want to expand premium to make it even more compelling for people to upgrade. So we've seen also some features being moved from what we know already now to premium. So you can expect that you will lose some functionality maybe in the future.
Yeah, so we learned engaging is one part, and we already learned that AI is another aspect. And I thought in preparation of this webinar, Scott, you said something that you learned in the keynote, that we're already using a lot more AI that we're apparently aware of, right?
Right. In terms of AI, when Microsoft's going with AI, it was a really interesting keynote at the conference in Las Vegas. This woman was talking about the fact that AI is infused into our work now. That isn't like AI, some separate robot that's going to, magically do the work, but just as part of the work. And she was using the analogies. She used car analogy, for example, that in the old days, you might have had there was like idea, a key to start the car or unlock it, and now they have this like RFD where you walk up to the car and the car unlocks because you have the key, the fob in your pocket, and then you just push the button. Her whole point was that as technology moves forward, it just becomes part of it. We don't think about it anymore. It's just there. And that's how she's seeing that AI is going to be. It's not going to be some separate aspect that has to be implemented. It's more like just going to be naturally part of the work. So in one aspect, speaking particularly about documents, she was saying, when you're typing now, it fulfills like possible extra words, what you'd say, and then you could press tab and have it complete the sentence, and then it corrects the grammar as you go, and all that becomes part of AI. Now, I go way back, and I remember, you had to type on the typewriters, right? You type on the typewriter, ding, ding. Anytime you made a mistake, you got to get the whiteout out. Yeah, and it was a big thing just to have a keyboard and a screen where you could type and then correct it by going backspace and all that. And at first it was WordPerfect, where it was a green screen. You had to put the codes in. And then you got Microsoft Word, and now you're typing in there, and this just becomes like this natural progression where it's just a tool you use. Of course it does that. Of course it acts that way. And the fact, in other words, of course AI is embedded in there. You type, and then it helps fill the sentence. It helps correct your grammar, maybe suggest other things. And when we get into syntax, you'll see that they're going even more and more in that direction. And I think one of the things that I got out of it was, it's like this kind of cascades from the top down, in the sense that syntax might be, or its AI work might be something that's a little bit on the edge at first, and then it filters down into the common workplace. Because I was thinking about this when I was a kid. We always had the roll-up windows on the cars, but all the fancy Cadillacs had the push buttons, and my grandfather had a Cadillac. So you go there and you it's like we always, as kids, we used to play with, look, you can do this. You can push this button and the window goes down, and you push this other, this little lever, and the window goes up and it goes down. And then, of course, all that technology, who it's just natural part of our cars is that when you want to raise the window, you push the button and it goes up, or down, or lower it, push the button. So this idea that AI is cascading down, or this technology is cascading down from the top, and it's going to become part of the common workplace experience. And we're seeing that with the document. They seem to be doing a lot with document generation, talking about massive amount of documentation out there that is unclassified and unstructured. And there's a great opportunity for AI, and we'll see that in syntax, to come in and organize the data automatically. You know, you already know it. Yeah. So
Viva,
before we
right,
get there, we have
not
Viva
only,
to go through. We have to go through
exactly,
Viva.
there's not only one AI, but there is, for example, Viva, who proposes you even, like, have you read that email? Do you have to prepare something for this meeting? And we find that there's a lot of happening in terms of Viva right now. So maybe, Matt, you want to talk a little bit more about Viva's new developments?
Yeah, so Viva, well, has been the big topic for Microsoft already for a while, and they keep adding new components, new features, new workloads to Viva. Also, of course, at M365 conference or Ignite earlier this year. So one of them, of course, are the recaps. You mentioned it just, Pia. Viva is trying to get your meetings, what meetings you had, summarize what has been said there, send you a reminder of that, gives you your daily briefing, what is coming up in the day, making your day basically easier to plan. Tries to analyze also what in emails that you receive has been said, if there is an appointment that you need to add to your calendar and so on and so. Tries to understand the context and helps you with tasks that you would usually do. And yeah, Microsoft adds additional parts into this whole entire concept. Now I think we have a slide also about Places, Microsoft Places, not necessarily Viva, but also going into the whole hybrid work where people come and go in different on different days, and it might be relevant to have possible to have a on-site meeting in the office, so people can say then, I'm going to be in the office in that building. Okay, there's a good chance that we can actually meet face to face. You can also book shared desks through Microsoft Places, so this will also come into I think it's also part of Viva. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. And then, of course, Microsoft acquired a while back an OKR software and now calls it Viva Goals. If you're unfamiliar with OKRs, Pia, maybe next slide, please. Oh yeah, there it is. If you're unfamiliar with OKRs, objectives and key results, it's in the IT world quite common. Basically helping you to focus on the right thing at the right time within an organization, defining company-wide objectives and key results for a specific term, so that, for example, every 3 months you define your OKRs, and then you break it down to your departments, how with individual OKRs of the departments, how can they contribute to the company goal that you have in that specific term. And Microsoft acquired a piece of software a while back, I think about a year back, and integrated that now as Viva Goals, that allows you to then define your OKRs, trickle them down to the organization within the departments, and connect it all to Power BI, for example, to get the key results directly out of there, so that the progress can always be seen by everyone. And yeah, Microsoft keeps adding further use cases to Viva, but Scott, maybe something from your perspective. Have you tried Viva already yourself, and what have you seen about it? What do you like?
I have to admit, I really haven't, and it might be because I'm more old school. I'm not a Gen Z. I'm not a millennial, so who knows?
You keep reminding us that we are so old, right?
Yeah, I know. Microsoft's making it. Microsoft's making me feel old. Yeah. You know, it's like, but it's good to have the history and see the flow of technology. But no, as far as Viva particularly goes, we haven't started using it. But now I hear more about it, and I saw it at the Ignite. I'm starting to think maybe we should put that more into our organization and see where it goes, and I'm more interested in it, and I think it's one of those things where a lot of us are. We're look, Microsoft is way out there as far as the leading edge of technology, and at the conferences you really see that. But most of the customers we deal with in Crow Canyon a lot of them are on SharePoint on premises, even SharePoint 2013, and they're looking to move to Office 365. And other people just got on Office 365 yesterday, so not literally, but I mean recently. And so they are just adapting to the environment without looking at all the fancy features that they could do now that they're on that. They're just kind of like catching their breath. They just landed. They just got off the plane, you might say, and and they're in the Office 365 world, and they're not ready for all that yet. So it's going to be this progression. So if you're not in Viva, you're not in all this stuff yet, don't worry. It's there, and Microsoft's moving. And most of your other workers that we run, maybe you do too, Matt, and are not on it. In fact, that's probably why Rencore governance is so important to bring into there. Is that you get on Office 365, then you have to get governance of it, so you keep control of the cost and the security once you're on the platform there.
Yeah, I guess.
Sorry, Pia. Just wanted to add something there. I think
there's some questions. So let's see if Jeff can get it.
I just wanted to add. So I think the difference is when you go on Office 365, it's mostly IT triggered, right? You want to modernize your IT infrastructure, whereas Viva is very much focused on business in general, HR. There's Viva survey to do do employee surveys and now Viva Pulse. Viva Pulse, basically employee satisfaction, also very important with this remote work where you don't see each other so often, easier to measure the pulse. There's Viva Engage and Viva Survey to run surveys in the organization. And this is also more like driven by business units, so the HR department, the OKRs maybe by upper management to align the company. So it's not a technology-driven tool within the organization, in my opinion. But you had questions, Scott. Maybe pull some of those in.
Are there questions, Krista or Jeff?
There are. Yes, we've got a few questions coming in. Great questions. So the first one is with Viva. So isn't that productivity awareness issue the point of Viva? Would you say that's really what Viva is driving at here?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. So on the one hand, okay, to make people more productive, but also to understand better what drives people in the organization to be productive. So both from a managerial perspective and the employee perspective. So yes, I totally agree. This is where Viva goes. And as you said, Scott, Microsoft is so far ahead with Viva. They are pushing, they are trying to set the standard, but I think the majority of the organizations will still require a lot of time until they come to that problem. They are currently dealing with much more basic problems.
That's right. When you first land in Office 365, you're in a new country, and how do you get around? You just want to find your way, to your hotel or the city or something. You're not worried about all the fancy stuff yet. But so I think it's kind of like that as they catch your breath, and then okay. But the really important thing here, and this is part of Microsoft's direction, is that it's going from an IT focus where if you have something on premises, your IT staff is managing it. Now IT's role is changing a little because when you're in the cloud, a lot of infrastructure is managed by the cloud services, the software as a service. It's a service now. And so IT and the business can focus more on quality. And that's what you were talking about earlier, Pia, how the jobs have gone into what's the quality of work? How is this experience? And this is what Teams being more engaging with hybrid workplace, with Viva, and now we're going into syntax. All that's about making a quality of work for the younger generations to, who are more attuned to that kind of style of work.
Yeah, thanks for coming back to that, Scott. So I think another AI to be mentioned here is syntax. Maybe Matt a little bit more about what does syntax do, or Scott, maybe do you have something to add to the slide that you brought today?
I think in general, syntax is basically helping to let the computer understand the context or the content, and to help to classify, to summarize, to translate, documents and whatever is shared and collaborated on, to make it easier, because we all get so much information, so many documents and so on, and it's extremely time consuming and inefficient in some way to deal with all that information. So with Syntax, Microsoft is trying to, everything that can be somehow standardized and analyzed, make it easier for the user at the end to get the information that they exactly need out of this. So Scott.
Yeah, I was just reading this thing, and I was watching this Jeff Teeper, who is, of course, one of the Microsoft VPs or director of something. He was saying in this podcast this, and I'm wondering if I wrote this right, 1.6 billion new documents per day in Microsoft 365. 1.6 billion documents a day. Yeah.
Quite a lot, yeah.
I was watching that last night at 1.6 billion per day. Anyway, so of course, spread across many organizations. But the point is, with all that documentation, and he was saying there's just so many terabytes of data that's unstructured that you need some kind of guide to it. Now, in fact, that AI conference I went to talked about CarMax, the keynote speech, and CarMax gets reviews from, of course, many cars from many people. How do they collate that? How do they summarize that? How do they make that into something practical? Because the person looking for, I don't know, Honda Civic 2018 or whatever, XE, or whatever, no, Honda EX or whatever, a car, you can't look through like 1,000 reviews, and so what the CarMax did is they ran it through AI, and they said it would have taken them, I forgot, but it did it in 3 days, what it would have taken them 11 years or something. I don't know. The numbers, who knows what the numbers are exactly, but the point is that it's way more efficient for AI to come in and catalog and analyze that data. So they talk about summarizing data, summarizing documents, tagging documents, and translation, as you mentioned there, Matt, about the documents. And translation also applies to Teams, where if you're having a Teams and you're doing closed captions, they now have this ability to translate in real time as you're doing the Teams thing. In fact, aren't you guys talking in German right now and it's translated into English? Is that what's going on here? No, that's not what's going on.
Wir können mal ausprobieren, ob GoToMeeting das auch kann, oder? So how did that go for you, Scott? Now, huh?
Yeah, but with the closed caption, they could do it. And the guy in the Post Ignite works for Sony, so they have Japanese and English going at the same time, so it'll translate back and forth. But one thing about Syntax I found interesting was they have this thing called auto assembly. So you have a SharePoint list, and you have fields in the list, and then it will automatically create the document. And the thing is, and here's a plug for Nitro Studio, we already do that. We can take a SharePoint list and generate a document. So some of this stuff, you share items in the SharePoint list, will find a place in a particular Word template or Excel template or Nitro template that you set up in our program. So some of what we're doing already there, Matt, is in line with where Microsoft's going, I think, and
Scott, you have the perfect segue for me now. So we have been talking about a lot of the tools that Microsoft offers to make working digitally a pleasing experience, right? So, but truth be told, Microsoft is not almighty. It relies on its partner ecosystem, and this is where then Rencore and Crow Canyon come into place. And maybe, Jeff, you can remind me, why is that so? Why is this partner ecosystem? I remember that you said something during the preparation about the partner ecosystem of Microsoft. Why does Microsoft rely on its partners?
Yeah, no, look, so Microsoft, clearly we all know they're a huge organization, tons of products. In fact, I think at Ignite, they'd announced some 250, 280 new products that they're releasing. So clearly they have a lot of it covered, but the truth be told is Microsoft for decades, for a long time now, has relied on the partner ecosystem to support all of their customers, as well as enhance the products in various ways. So, way back in the day when you had the Worldwide Partner Conference, and you go to all these events, and there's huge numbers of companies out there that are Microsoft sort of focused and centric, everything from consulting to products, etc. So I think that the importance of looking at the partner ecosystem to enhance the Microsoft experience is very important, in that, you know, you have companies such as ours that are focused on sort of niche components or pieces to the whole puzzle. So they provided the framework, the platform, and even if they have provided a product of some type, or it's something that provides some functionality, you have other companies like ours that are hyper focused on developing solutions on top of the Microsoft platform to continue to enhance, the experience that Microsoft's driving at. Now they support us, we support them, and and it's an ecosystem that thrives and is dependent on each other. So I think that's sort of the opportunity for us as companies to develop there, but also for consumers out there, for companies and organizations as they're looking at and standardizing on Microsoft on the suite and Office 365 or M365, and for that matter, is that beyond that, there's a whole host of companies out there that can add benefit and enhancements to what you're trying to accomplish, or what's possible to accomplish in Microsoft. So that's kind of how I see the ecosystem today, and sort of the synergy.
So I think we're all now wondering, what does this Crow Canyon software do? I mean, Scott, you've a lot mentioned Crow Canyon software, but we still don't really know, what does Nitro Studio do?
Okay. We do have questions coming in, and we'll get to those in a moment. And I really like in a webinar when we can engage with the audience and talk, answer their questions. Also, we encourage one-on-one engagement, either with Crow Canyon directly or Rencore. Now, Rencore and Crow Canyon are partners. Rencore does governance, which means keep control of your environment. But what we do here at Crow Canyon is complementary in the sense that we have business process automation. Now, when you get on Office 365 or even SharePoint on premises, a big question that comes up for people is, okay, we're on this, now what do we do with it? How do we use it effectively in our organization? How do we make maybe we're doing with emails or spreadsheets or old InfoPath or Lotus Note forms, things that we can do now with Office 365 and SharePoint that we couldn't do previously. So we built up our Nitro Studio over the years. It's a forms and workflow platform that people can use to build their own applications. If you're a citizen developer, your own solutions, you can replace. We have a number of InfoPath replacement projects going on at any one time. At the same time, we also have pre-built applications, help desk, purchasing, work orders, equipment, and we're working in a number of industries like retirement homes to do asset management, or healthcare for other managing equipment, and a lot of places use our IT help desk and things like that. So they're utilizing the forms and workflow platform, Nitro Studio, which runs on either SharePoint on premises or Microsoft 365 in the commercial GCC and GCC high environments, to really enhance and expand their possibilities inside of these environments, and be able to provide real solutions to people. And one area that we're spending more and more time on is this bots, or Teams engagement, Teams apps, Teams bots, whatever you want to call them. But the idea that they can, we are aligning with the whole hybrid workspace environment where people are using Teams. They want to engage with Teams. They want to use mobile devices to engage and initiate their business processes, which weren't necessarily possible prior to, if you use an InfoPath or older forms of communication. In other words, your business process has to adapt to the hybrid workplace and the cloud environment in the Gen Z millennial world. So that's hope that's a good enough summary there. And
yeah, we were. Thank you, Scott. We were talking about that a lot. That you used to get tools for your workplace in order to keep your place running, and now it's somehow the software that is kind of introducing your way of working, right? That software dictates how you're going to work. And even with Viva, it doesn't really dictate you, but there is like a switching the switch off, and do your evening meditation and then leave the workplace. So Microsoft takes care of that as well. Let's quickly mention that obviously, when you have so many tools and you have so many things you can do with Microsoft, there is at some point a lack of things, and Jeff just said it, that there's like a little niche where Crow Canyon and Rencore then comes in order to enhance the whole experience. For example, with Rencore, maybe Matt, you want to explain what slides you brought with you today? What does Rencore do?
I only brought one slide, and I think the topic governance is, everybody talks about governance, but everybody thinks something different. What does governance actually mean, and why do we actually need governance? Basically, what Microsoft is doing, they are releasing all these new tools and new functionality because they want to expand within their customers. They want to give them more and more ideas to adopt their tools, that it will get harder and harder for a customer to leave them and go to Google, for example, at some point, because the entire organization has been adjusted. And by doing that, they offer, for example, that people can by default create teams, that by default they can invite externals. By default, they can do a lot of tasks within the Office 360 or Microsoft 365 tenant that at the end creates a lot of headaches for IT, because they have to clean up the mess. People create teams for projects, for job interviews, for I don't know, whatever reason, have multiple teams for the same purpose. Some get abandoned, orphaned, maybe the owners are gone, and so on. So there are only two options from an IT perspective, basically. Either allow them to do these things and deal with the consequences, or lock everything down and have a managed process where IT is managing the rollout of all these tools like Teams or different like SharePoint and so on, Power Automate, Power Apps. These are also similar topics. So implementing governance in an organization for their Microsoft 365 tenant is basically a little bit like setting up the house rules, what is allowed and what is not allowed to do in that organization. And these house rules are nice when you write them down. Nobody will read them. They will be outdated very soon, and you will not be able to find out quickly who abides to those rules and who breaks them. So a tool like Rencore Governance continuously scans your Office 365 environment, all the services that you see listed there, and creates an inventory of your services. And then on top of that inventory, you can build reports, dashboards, and also policies where you can say, for example, every team has only should have minimum 2 owners. So if somebody leaves the organization, that there's still somebody else to manage the team. That external users should be, if they haven't logged in for more than 90 days, should be no longer having the privileges to access the data or the SharePoint site. That licenses that are assigned to users who haven't logged in for half a year should be automatically removed, and so on. And many of these things go maybe, I wouldn't say against the interest of Microsoft, but yeah, they want massive, major adoption in the organization. They want people to create stuff, to use stuff, to consume licenses, to use premium connectors in Power Apps because they earn their money with it. So our solution somehow comes in and helps organizations to set these kind of rules, control them, and set the boundaries over the entire life cycle of all these resources that are used in the various services of Office 365. So that's it.
Thank you, Matt, for this really nice wrap up, and Scott, you too.
We do have more questions, though. There's more questions.
Exactly. Please,
Chris. Yes. Looks like lots of questions have been coming in. I know that a lot of us have questions about some of the updates that Microsoft is rolling out and how that might affect us, and how that might also, what we can do to support our organization. So one of the things that came in is the question, are they doing anything to expose more native SharePoint functionality in Teams? Switching between is obviously distracting. So not sure if that's something that Scott or Matt, either of you would know about.
I could address that. Yeah, that's a good question, because the SharePoint backend is not the friendliest interface these days. And what we do in our applications, in our Nitro Studio, is we provide through Teams interfaces to engage with data in the back end, which in this case happens to be SharePoint. So you can do, like, say, a purchase request, make it the request in our Nitro Engage bot. You can then get it, the manager gets a notice in his or her teams, and then he or she can approve or disapprove it, and that goes back, and it's all done inside of Teams. And Microsoft's doing a lot to make Teams we are as part of our Nitro Studio, but along with Microsoft, they are making Teams very much the interface to back-end data. It could be to Dataverse or SQL servers or other data sources, Dynamics even. In Nitro Studio, we're focused on making it interfacing to SharePoint lists, because the list data is where the workflows and the real meat of the application, the real heart of the application goes. And admins can go back and tweak and administer the application in the SharePoint backend. But for the end users, it's about Teams, and that's what somebody said, "What did you learn at the conference?" And it was like Teams. that was like the big thing there. Now, what we didn't mention as much as we could have, I suppose, because we only have so much time, about Teams and where they're going. For instance, they're enhancing the channels. Channels are now becoming more with an intranet kind of page. They're doing things like adding more features. Matt talked about Teams Premium, which is an extra cost, but even in the basic Teams, they're adding more and more functionality to make Teams the place of engagement for the users. Of course, it's also mobile friendly, because you can use a Teams app on your phone or on your desktop or tablet or whatever. So I think I see more and more the SharePoint backend fading into the background. And even that syntax video I saw from Jeff Teeper, he was talking about how important SharePoint is to the whole environment, but however, the interfaces are in other places. So SharePoint is very, very much an important component of their whole structure, of Microsoft structure, but in a way it fades more. It becomes just part of it. It's just there, and you're interfacing it with Teams and portals and other mechanisms. So I hope that answers that question, that you can be confident that using Teams to engage with the backend SharePoint data is really a lot of what's going on with Teams, and as well as our Crow Canyon applications. We're following right along with that. Does that answer the question, you think, Krista?
I do, yeah. Great answer, Scott. Thank you.
I might add something to that. Also, what I don't think what they are planning to do, or at least I haven't seen any indication in SharePoint previously. Well, SharePoint was used as an intranet, was enriched with customizations and so on. So we come from the SharePoint customization area where we helped organizations to have high quality customizations previously. And I think this kind of work will not be as much exposed in Teams in the future, because in Teams they want to have as much as standardized and interface and simplicity, so that people actually find their way around. So they rather encourage you to implement your custom experiences directly in Teams instead of doing something in SharePoint that is then exposed via Teams. So we'll see how this will pan out, but yeah.
What other questions we have there?
We actually, here's another one on Teams. Did they say anything about addressing the inter-team navigation deficiencies of the current Teams implementation?
Mean from one organization to another? Is that what they mean?
I believe so.
And it could be also within an organization. So I know users in organizations that are member in 200, 300 teams, and totally, lose the overview where they are actually collaborating, and then you have the problem. Okay, how do you collaborate the marketing team with the sales team? Each is working their own team, but if you want to get input from a salesperson to a marketing campaign, you basically have to either reach out in a chat or invite them to your team to communicate there. So having this kind of inter-team communication is at the moment rather hard. I know that from our own organization, we have also basically almost everyone is in every team now, because because you always need to pull in someone and inform someone else. So I haven't seen anything there that Microsoft is currently addressing. They only address like this shared teams with other organizations, but this is then again it's separate bucket where you collaborate only with the people who are member there.
That's exactly right, and there's always the user voice at Microsoft to make requests, and they're very communicative. They're not going to drop everything and do your request immediately, but they do take the input to heart, and they are accessible. And that's one of the good things about going to these conferences is you can talk to real Microsoft people and MVPs. I don't think there's another conference until the spring, but still, it was one of the advantages of being at the conferences. More questions there, Krista?
Absolutely. We've got a couple on Viva now. So with Viva, why can't I see one person view time of my shared document? It is set to over 5 in a share, and this is about supervising work.
You can take that, Matt.
Good question. To be honest, I don't have the answer for that. This is a little bit too specific for my experience with Viva right now. So I've tried out Viva, but we are currently not actively using that, and I haven't seen anything about such a specific use case right now. Sorry about that.
All right, we've got another one here about Viva. Can you bring some business case studies to utilize Viva?
Huh.
Well, yeah. It's a good question because we have that same question actually. What is the business use case here? And it's more like, I think, implementing a new style of work. Now, my thinking about Viva is they keep rolling it out in these different fashions, and it may morph into something else. But the whole concept of quality of work, quality of experience of your job at work, helping you have an AI helping you along. With your projects and with your engagements with coworkers is going to be there. Now, it's going to manifest as Viva. Is Viva going to change or morph into something else? I'm not quite sure. It's something that is really interesting to watch. And I have to say, me personally, being a little bit older, a little bit standoff to jump right into the Viva pool right away. But other people, other MVPs I've talked to in the conferences we had post Ignite down in Southern California, they were like, yeah, Viva, it's great. We use it all the time. We're putting it into our other organizations. So everybody seems to have a different experience, whether it's of great value or not. And what the business case would be, what I think what Pia was talking about earlier, that there is this quality of work or feeling like embraced more, feeling more like guided in your work, right? Something like that, Pia. The idea that Microsoft, that isn't just work, it's also like you have, I don't know, something helping you there, a helper behind you.
Exactly.
I just got a Viva thing in my inbox right now that says your daily briefing. Hi, it's a new day. I would share it, but what does it tell me to do? It tells me to do. I get these every day, and it's telling me I got to do something today. Let's see, there's a webinar. Okay, I know about that. Happen to be in it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Viva.
It's kind of what we talked about in the beginning about this. Answering the questions of your generation, and obviously the generation that I might count myself also in is like much more about, okay, mental health and what does my employee do, like my workplace do for me. And obviously Microsoft responds to that, for example, with Viva, in order to practice like mindfulness and practice this switching off in the end of your day, for example.
That's one aspect of it, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at this email. It's kind of interesting. Maybe I should pay more attention to this because it's saying prepare for today's meeting. There's a marketing meeting, and here's 3 emails that are related. Here's some documents that may be related to it. At 4 to 5 p.m., I've got to do a webinar with our people in Australia about the aged care asset management down there. So I say, here's documents that might be related to that. That's 4 p.m. in Australia. In here in California, 10 a.m.
Chris said the question was also a little bit about customer success stories. So did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
Yeah. So
maybe it's
personally, I haven't met many organizations yet that have actually rolled out Viva. Microsoft, as you said, Scott, Microsoft keeps pushing it, but Microsoft themselves, they have their customer stories website where you can also filter by product, and you see a couple of customers who apparently have Viva rolled out. So there's US Bank, Avanade, Microsoft themselves, of course, PayPal, who else did they have? Chevron, and so on, Unilever. So these are, it seems to me, these are mostly very large organizations. So rather enterprises, large enterprises that probably face exactly these problems at a scale where it makes sense for them to roll it out, or Microsoft is just giving it away for free to them. I don't know. But anyhow, I think in smaller organizations, at the moment, this is still too far ahead and not addressing the immediate problems that most of the organizations had. Might be maybe different in a year from now with Viva.
Yeah, I think what it is Viva is still kind of new and people are getting used to it. And I'm looking at the emails that I look at these every once in a while from Viva, and I see it's still a little raw. I mean, you know, everybody has, you know, who's been in the workplace for any length of time has their style of working, and to adjust this whole idea that Viva has to tell me when I have other ways of already knowing about what I'm supposed to do for the meeting later or what emails are relevant, you know, it's hard for me to adapt to having like this kind of like almost like AI robot in a way, Viva robot telling me what work is going on. But maybe younger generations will become, as younger generations come into place and Viva gets more efficient with the AI, it will become more intermeshed a kind of style of working. I can see it very much going in that direction because there is value in it. It's pulling up emails from 6 days ago. Have you done this yet? Here's some documents related to a meeting you're having today. Is it accurate? Is it efficient? Is it the best way to do it? Well, it's got potential to do that. And I think people who are going to be in this Microsoft environment really need to pay attention to these things we're bringing up, hopefully bringing to your attention, or Microsoft's really bringing to our attention. I mean, that's not us. It's really Microsoft. AI, syntax, Viva, where Teams is going, because this is what the new workplace in the Microsoft 365 world will be all about. It's more and more about these additional tools on top of it. There is some time for a few more questions. Funny. I don't know. What do you think? What's that? Go ahead, Peter.
No, it's so funny because I just had a Viva pop-up telling me to wrap up my day, which is so funny because I think we're also almost at the end of this webinar. So please, if you have any questions left, this is the time now for you to ask them.
Krista, anything there?
We do have several more actually about syntax.
I can stay on.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, great. So with syntax, is it affordable for smaller organizations? I mean, they're the ones who need it most. So what do we know about syntax?
Yeah, I was looking up trying to look up the pricing, and I didn't get a clear answer on it. And we'll try and send information about it. Oh, what's that, Jeff?
Yeah. So it's $5 per user. I guess it's relative in terms of is it affordable, but it is $5 per user per month. You know, with the annual commitment, so $60 a year per user for syntax.
I wouldn't be surprised if in the future, like I said about the roll-up windows and the pushing the button, if syntax doesn't come down and just become part of Microsoft Office at some point, and there'll be more advanced features of syntax, but the common things that we're paying for now, or people could pay for now, will become part of the normal experience of just working with Microsoft Office at some point.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that evolves.
And also Teams Premium, if you want to know the pricing on that, I've heard $4 per user per month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of still, a lot of the stuff is still in like rollout or initial stages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, more questions?
Yeah. So is it possible to hook syntax with tools like DocuSign, or is it in place of DocuSign? How does that factor in?
Well, with syntax has an e-signature capability that you can use the native native one, or you can do other. If you want to do DocuSign because you're used to it, you can implement DocuSign in the syntax environment, or other e-signature options.
Adobe Sign, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think Adobe Sign. You're right. So they have an option for e-signature, but a lot of people are using other signature programs, Adobe Sign or DocuSign. So yeah, you can use DocuSign in that, or use its own native one in syntax. Okay.
Great. And I've got a question for Matt here. So how would you say Rencore aligns with the features and costs of AvePoint?
Ooh, good one.
So I can a good question. Thank you for asking that one. That makes me kind of happy. So cost-wise, I can say we are significantly cheaper than AvePoint. So AvePoint is usually bundling with a bunch of other products that we have. So I can give you a rough ballpark. So Rencore is roughly about 20 to 30 cents per user per month. So depends. We don't have a pay-as-you-go licensing, but rather you buy in buckets, like up to 500 users, up to 1,000 users, and so on. So pricing-wise, I think you will not find SharePoint more compelling than how we are at the moment, and feature-wise neither, because we depending on what you're looking at, if you're looking at SharePoint policy and insights or SharePoint collaboration governance, which is more on provisioning. So provisioning will be added in Q1 in Rencore governance as well, and everything else in regards of policies, we cover more services. We are super configurable, so you can adjust your governance plan extremely flexible. We already deliver over 100 templates for policies that you can modify to your needs. So I think the flexibility is our key USP compared to any of the other competitors in that space. And feel free to book a demo. Or just go to rencore.com and start a 30-day trial. You can try with demo data or with your own.
That's fantastic. Sounds like an obvious choice.
I think so.
It looks like we have one last question in here. So if anyone else has another, go ahead and get that in. But the last question also about Syntax. What are the most useful functionalities of Syntax for managers? How can they benefit from Syntax?
Yeah, I think the thing there is when you have a large volume of documents that you need to classify and tag and auto discover, they mentioned that creation, processing, and discovery of documents. They did an analysis where there's like these, I don't know how many terabytes or petabytes or whatever bytes of something. In other words, a massive amount of data that's sitting out there. How do you organize it? How do you make it available? How do you take like 1,000 reviews about the Ford Pinto or something?
Yeah, and I think even small organizations already struggle with the amount of data and finding the right stuff, which might be duplicated also in various SharePoint sites and so on, and classifying it, being able to quickly find it, definitely brings a lot of value as everybody's constantly creating new documents.
And I think part of it there, Matt, is the auto tagging and auto classification and summarizing. You can summarize documents also, so that you don't have to someone sit there summarize. You see what I mean, right? As far as that goes. So it will analyze the document itself and know that this is for this particular, should go in this particular category and tag this way, and then makes it more discoverable. The other thing with Syntax, you can take an existing document, and we can do this already with Word templates, but the idea is you can mark out certain areas as you can turn the document into a template, and then, like I say, some of this we do already in Nitro Studio, so it's hard to know. I think the AI part is really content AI. They said content AI for into the flow of work. The idea is that the AI gets into the flow of work as you do the document. It's being classified, it's being summarized, it's being given the right tags without you having to really do that yourself. Does that sound about right? Yeah, I don't know if you had something to say. I think I jumped on what you were saying, Matt. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I agree. I think we have.
The more I read about it, the more I think this might be something interesting. We don't have that many documents, but it's interesting to try in our organization and see if we can classify sales collateral, for instance, and marketing materials better.
I just imagine. So we have one customer who has over 2 petabytes in data, and I can only imagine how hard it is for an organization like that, 100,000 users and so much data, which is still a lot for that size of an organization. And I just wonder how hard it must be for them to actually, find stuff there and manage that data. So
and
I think there's definitely a need.
And the big point in the keynote was how much time it saved. It saved them, I don't know if they said 11 years or 11 months. I can't remember. It's obviously a huge difference. I had to get back to my booth. I didn't listen to the whole speech, but it was certainly an interesting thing that how much they did in days what could have taken months or years,
Yeah, the problem is they're just measuring ROI in efficiency is very, very hard. So
absolutely. A lot of those numbers are made up, right?
Krista, are there any more questions for the moment?
I think that was our last question. I know we're a little over time, so I don't want to keep people too much longer here. One quick thing to note, we will send a recording out of this. So if you missed anything, if you weren't able to make it, we will send the recording out shortly here. And if you do have any questions, I know Matt, Scott are both very happy to answer any questions one-on-one. We do have the emails here at the bottom of the slide. And I think, Pia, did you have anything else before we wrap up?
I just wanted to end on a positive note. So maybe Scott and Matt, you have like one key takeaway to share. Where is Microsoft going to go, or what does the future maybe behold? Where can we be looking forward to after this webinar?
You want to go, Matt?
I don't know if it's a positive note, but Microsoft will keep adding new products that will make it even more confusing for everyone, so that you guys will have to come to these webinars to understand what's actually going on. To be honest, I lose track myself as well, what Microsoft is adding left and right, and for what reason, and sometimes also competing components. So that makes it kind of challenging, but the direction is clear. Microsoft wants to be or is already and wants to remain the #1 as a collaboration platform to help organizations to get the most out of it and be efficient in their work. And I think I'm also working sometimes with Google, and I think the difference is quite severe how working with Microsoft is. So Microsoft is doing a really well job. On the other hand, I cannot say if that's only from my perspective, being an IT person who likes to try out new stuff. If an average user in an organization still thinks the same, it's maybe something different. Scott.
Yeah, thanks for that, Matt. And yeah, it is a very positive thing. Pia, I've seen technology all the way from, like I say, typewriters and mailing letters to, getting instant photos from my daughter in overseas, and I was thinking how that would have been in the past, where she'd have to print out the picture, put it in an envelope, mail it to me. Now in instant time. So we're seeing technology, rapid technological change. Everybody can feel overwhelmed by it. Don't feel bad. We all are. And we're all in this together. That's how I see it. And going to the conference really felt good after the COVID and all that, where we weren't going to conferences for several years. We have been doing them very regularly. And we form it's a community. I mean, we're all in this together, and Microsoft is up there, kind of leading the charge. But like Jeff was saying about the third-party vendors like Rencore and Crow Canyon, we're here to help. We're here to help be sort of the guides and the trail if we can, and provide value where we can. And I think all of us are excited by technology, where it's going and what AI is going to do. And we don't want to get into surveillance states and all that and government checking us. But as far as what we can do in our businesses, there's a real value in bringing these tools to our employees. And what Pia is saying about increasing quality of work, increasing customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, making our jobs easier and better, and that's what it's all about. And I think it's good moves. I was really glad. I look forward to conferences coming up in May. There's another one in Vegas. There's one in Dusseldorf, Germany, where you guys will be at, Rencore for sure. And there's regular conferences coming up as well. Innumerable articles and videos and on the web about all this going on. So I hope people can stay abreast of these changes and adapt their organizations to the changes that are coming down the pike in due time. Yeah,
thank you so much.
People can share their time with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for this final positive note. I really wanted to end it on a very high. So our expectations are up now. I think it was great to see where Microsoft is now, and what kind of responsibilities the digital workplace has also for our workforce. So I think that came across really good. Yes, I want to thank the attendees who stayed in so long. Thank you very much for today. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to everyone who has joined. This is our end of the day in Germany, so I will say good night. For maybe for some of you, it's good morning. So I hope you have a
Good morning.
wonderful day ahead. And I will leave you at that.
Thank you,
Thank you
Pia.
very much,
Thank
everyone.
you, Matt.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.